What's up guys, Jack here with MTS, and Ubiquiti just released their network application 6.4.54 update, and oh boy did they ever make a lot of changes. If we look at their old version, Unified Network Application 6.2.25, they added one thing. They fixed manual alert migration issue for standalone setups. Not really a lot. And then if we look at the new one, they did just about like everything. So let's dive right in and talk about this. Okay, so it says that this release is currently a release candidate. Basically, what that should mean is that it's not, going to be pushed out to everybody. This is just something that they're working on and is basically a beta release. So they have a notification rework, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but overall, my thoughts on the notification system is they had something working really well in the old controller version, and then they took it, made it terrible, and then put it in the new user interface and removed the perfectly good working one from the old interface. So Ubiquiti, you gotta stop removing stuff from the old interface because you had a perfectly good working platform and then you just trashed it with the new user interface. So yeah. Then we have improvements to system performance. This is like some real-time traffic update stuff. But we have improvements to system performance and application latency. This is a big issue. So whenever you connect to the device's IP address, directly, it works fine. And that's how I generally do things through a VPN. That's how I manage most of my client sites. But for the few where I'm actually using the built-in, remote connection, I have a lot of issues with the UDM Pros where when I go to, load up a new page, it'll just never load. It'll just be stuck at spinning and then the page will crash in Google Chrome. And I've tried that in Safari, Chrome, Firefox. It just doesn't work. So they really do need to be fixing this system performance and application latency. So they added optimized IoT Wi-Fi connectivity. Thank you. That is so nice because now you really have the ability to just have a one-click button that says, hey, this is an IoT network, and it should block off and create those firewall rules. I haven't installed this yet, so we're going to install this later in this video, and we'll take a look and see if that works. But they've also added a Wi-Fi interference chart, Wi-Fi settings to the hotspot page, stuff for the UDM. Yeah, so they have just a ton of changes here. Improved WAN failover notifications. That's a big thing. I still have a few USGs out in the wild, and those guys with dual WAN connections, they stop notifying you pretty fast. So it works like 30% of the time, I would say, because if I go into the log, that works. But whenever I'm just relying on notifications, I never get them. They've also added status sections to display options in the topology. Ubiquiti's topology is not very good in terms of their tree mapping of things. If you look at the TP-Link Omada stuff, that does a really good job of being able to collapse stuff, break things out. It's really nice, so Ubiquiti really needs to catch up in that way. They've also added power source options for the UXW Flex. Thank you, Ubiquiti. The USW Flex for the longest time couldn't tell you how much power was actually being supplied to it. It had the ability to show a number there, but it never actually showed a number there. It would just say 0.00 watts. So yes, this is very nice. They also allow enabling VPN on existing networks. That's awesome. And the properties panel, table, column, styling, blah, 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 blah. A bunch of random stuff. And now we get on to things that they are removing. Disable Wi-Fi legacy support if auto-optimize is enabled. Disable edit for default switch ports. And disable Wi-Fi data rate settings if auto-optimize network is enabled. And also enable multicast block if auto-optimize is enabled and there are more than 10 APs assigned to an SSID. I'm not too sure what that means specifically, whether or not that's, blocking MDNS, which, if I'm in a large home, I still want to have, between the IoT network and my main network, I still want to be able to send stuff to the Chromecast. So we'll have to take a look at that and see if that is what I think it is. I believe I have enough access points on hand that we can test that. Then they have a cleanup daily DPI statistics based on, statistics, data retention settings. So basically just fixing stuff that they already had. Show correct memory usage values, blah, 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 blah. Preload stuff, update traffic. Yeah, and they also changed beta to Unify Labs. I have a problem with this one. So Ubiquiti has been, creating things that are beta, especially like the new user interface, and then they've been making them the default. Like the new user interface, which is hot garbage. It took me one click to get to the firewall rules before. That's where I spend like 90% of my time in the UniFi controller is setting up the firewall rules, because the Wi-Fi networks and the main networks take like 30 seconds each to set up. So when I'm setting up all the firewall rules, I now have to dig through like 3 different settings menus. So thanks, Ubiquiti. Please stop this crap. But I guess to make it more PR friendly, they changed it from beta to lab. So not a fan of this change. That should still be beta, because then everybody can see, hey, Ubiquiti's just screwing me over. If you can't tell, I'm kind of mad at Ubiquiti about a lot of things. And then coming down here, we get into all of the bug fixes. I'm not going to go through all of these. If you want, you can read through all this stuff. I'll have it linked down in the description below. But let's get this installed, set up a temporary testing UniFi network. We're going to deploy a USG, a bunch of access points, PoE switch, all that stuff. And let's see how all of this comes together. Getting in here to the controller, I have everything all connected. I had to adopt a few extra access points in here. And one thing that I noticed is I looked at the USW Flex, and I was able to see the PoE budget. I'm not on the new controller version. This is 6.1.70. So yeah, not sure why this decided to come back, but hey, it did. But yeah, so this is the new user interface, and to get to my firewall rules, which used to just be, right here, I have to go now to security, internet threat management, and then firewall. What was 1 click away is now 3. Thank you, Ubiquiti. Now I'm going to go ahead and update to the new controller version and see how it all works. All right, so it says DB migration in progress, and great. All right, launch a browser to manage the network. Cool, let's just jump right in. All right, so we are upgraded to controller version 6.4.54.0, also known as just 6.4.54. But so everything went well. I didn't have to actually use the backup that I made, which is always nice. Your backup should be a last resort, not really, the primary thing that you rely on. But so if we take a look at our site here, everything pretty much stays the same. I'm going to make sure that I have automatically optimized my network on, which it is. And so because we have 10 access points, here, let me go to the dashboard and should be able to show you right here. 10 out of 11 access points. I am missing my Nano HD. I just lost it. I straight up have no idea where it is. It's either in storage somewhere or at a client site. So yeah, the Nano HD is missing, but everything else is here. And we have 10 access points. So I want to check to see if MDNS is enabled. If you remember where it says enable multicast block if auto optimize is enabled and there are more than 10 APs assigned to an SSID. I don't have more than 10, but I have 10, so hopefully that's enough. But I'm going to head back into the controller here and see if I can go down to services, MDNS, and it's off. All right, let's turn it on, apply changes, and let's see if it takes. I don't know whether that multicast is referring to MDNS or something else, but I'm hoping that the MDNS will still work. So now I'm going to connect a Chromecast, and I'm going to see if I can still cast to it from my phone. Okay, so I tried it, and it worked. MDNS still works. I believe it's something different, but hey, MDNS still works, and that's all I'm concerned about. I trust Ubiquiti to handle the back-end stuff of multicast, IGMP, all that crap. I trust them to handle that for me. Now I want to check to see what else they've changed on the controller back-end. We do still have the remote access page here. I'm not going to go to it because I don't want to have to blur out my email address and all that crap. But we still have the remote access page here and the controller page. They didn't remove those and put those in the new user interface like they do if you're running one of their hardware controllers, whether that be a UDM, UDM Pro, Cloud Key Gen 2, Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus. Those devices, you can only access the remote access thing through the new user interface, and it's done mostly through managing users. So Yeah, it's nice that that's still here. They did move notifications, so notifications have not returned to the old user interface. Okay, but I do want to go take a look at the new notification settings, so I'm gonna have to enable the new user interface. Ugh, this is disgusting. And I have my useless information dashboard here, and I want to go to the notifications. And let's see how this works. Let's do custom. Okay, so unified device discovery. A unified device was detected or was adopted successfully. This is pretty cool, and it's not new. It was new as of the version that I updated to last time, so 6.1.70, I believe. So it'll tell you, and you can get an email notification or push notification through the app, and it'll tell you, hey, a new access point has been found. So yeah, it makes it really easy to adopt new devices, and I do appreciate that. Although, then again, when I am adopting a new device, I'm generally already in the dashboard, so how useful is that? I'm not really sure. All right, so we have backup internet connection in use. And yeah, I guess this is the new setting that they tried to fix. So I'm gonna enable push notification. It was already enabled, but I'm gonna hit apply changes. So I wanna test this out. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give my USG 2 WAN connections. Both of them are just gonna be from my current main switch. And then I'm gonna yoink one of them and see if it gives me notification when it goes to backup. And I'm gonna do that a handful of times to see, hey, how reliable is this notification? All right, so I got everything tested with the USG, and yes, they actually did fix the notification issue. So I got the notification 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and I believe I unplugged it 5 times. So I got the notification 5 times, so it works. Just that last one, I guess, was a little bit delayed. So that works. Now I want to go take a look at the IoT Wi-Fi network setup and see if that's any easier. See if it actually creates the firewall rules for segregating the networks, and also see if it automatically enables MDNS, so that way I can still communicate with those devices. Whether that be a Chromecast, I can still send a video from my phone to the Chromecast. If it's an Apple TV, things like that. Let's go try and set up an IoT network. But first, I'm gonna have to delete my current IoT network so we can create a new one with the new user interface. So all right, I deleted my IoT network. Let's add a new one, and we're gonna call this Slayer IoT. And let's just give it a password. This is password 1. Advanced options here. Optimize IoT. Okay, so it has this automatically selected right here. I'm curious if it pulled this and automatically selected this based off of the fact that I had IoT in the name. So I'm gonna delete that. Or I'll leave it. I'll leave it. Let's set this up. Multicast enhancement. Yep, sure. And yeah, everything looks good here. I'm gonna hit create. Actually, no. So IoT networks, a common problem is people set up an IoT network and wonder why their devices can't connect to it. So a lot of IoT devices, specifically like little smart plugs, Wi-Fi bulbs, those types of devices, a lot of times they don't actually accept a 5 gigahertz network. And so when you combine the SSIDs of the network, sometimes, especially IoT devices, don't like that. So it's really just a good idea to just have an IoT network that's 2.4 gigahertz only. Unless you're doing something like Chromecasts where you might want 5 gigahertz, you could just have 2 Wi-Fi networks that share the same main network or the same, IoT underlying network, and then have one of them be 5 gigahertz and one of them be 2.4 gigahertz. It doesn't look like I have the option to choose which network this is on. So, little concerned about that. Little concerned about where my VLAN information is. I have no idea where this is. That's not good. Okay, so I created a second Wi-Fi network here and auto-optimize IoT Wi-Fi connectivity. Okay, so this is not creating an IoT network. This is just making sure that my network works with IoT devices, not creating a dedicated IoT network. Therefore, I would not expect this to make any firewall changes. So it's not going to isolate this network. It's not going to do anything like that. But I also don't see the ability to assign a network to a VLAN. Security? Nope. I also don't have the ability to enable legacy support because they did remove that if you have auto optimize my network enabled. Okay, so I added this testing 2 network here. Let's go back to Wi-Fi, create a new Wi-Fi network, and all right, now we have the option to dump it onto another network. So they just hide that if you don't have that enabled. I'd still like to see the setting there, so that way it's something that I remember that I can do. Maybe if you're not familiar with the Ubiquiti way of doing things. It's just, I don't feel like an option should be hidden based off of a condition. So yeah, I would like to see this always here, but yeah, I can select this to be on LAN 2, and let's use this terrible user interface because firewall rules used to just be right here. I could just click, firewall, routing and firewall, but now I have to go into, internet. No, I go into traffic and security. What? Global threat management? Firewall. Yeah. So now it's in it's 3 clicks and they changed the names of some things. So yeah, it didn't used to say global threat management. It was just, I don't remember what it was, but it was something different. So yeah, super hate this new user interface. Yeah, we don't have any rules set up that will isolate a IoT network. So, yeah, not super great. Not super great. I'm not really happy with that. It's nice that they have the option to make sure that this network will work with IoT devices, but I was really hoping that this option was just going to be a one-click button that's going to create your firewall rules to segregate your networks. It's going to also enable MDNS, and that should just, do everything for me. So, yeah, not the one-click option that I thought it would be. So, pretty disappointed about that. Okay, so I think I found out what that multicast is. I was diving through the port profile stuff for the switch options, and multicast here. So, multicast would be, one device talking to a bunch of other devices. And so that's good. That's how things like Dante works. If you're having, a thing talk to, a bunch of different things, you create multicast flows. So multicast is a good thing, but on a Wi-Fi network, I'd still like to have the option to enable it. I'm going to go hunt around and see if that's an option that I can find. Okay, so I can't find a way to force enable multicast in a Wi-Fi network. So I don't know. I think it's just one of those behind the scenes if you have auto optimize on. Yeah, you just kind of have to deal with the Ubiquiti way. So yeah, aside from enabling multicast enhancement, that's really all you can do. So yeah, figured that one out. All right, so now we have to come in here to the USW Flex, and I want to see the total power consumption. It doesn't tell me out of how many watts. It doesn't tell me how much PoE I'm using. If I go to Insights, Settings, Ports. Okay, so now it's telling me what's using it, but it doesn't tell me how much PoE it's getting like it was doing before. So honestly, I prefer the old way of it displaying that. Maybe that's just a new controller interface. Okay, so we're back to the old user interface, and yes, the power options, the PoE consumption budget thing was just a new user interface making things terrible. Seriously, they need to take the... You know what? I'm just going to make a dedicated video about all of my complaints with Ubiquiti. So I'm not even going to talk about it anymore, but they just need to fix things. But so, yeah, it's just the new user interface that's disabling that. But it's still telling me how much power I'm using. It's still telling me how it's being powered and the wattages that I get based off of that. And so because I'm powering it with ATPoE, I get 20 watts of power and I'm using 11.62 watts of that. So yeah, that works. But anyway, guys, I think that pretty much wraps it up for controller update 6.4.54. So yeah, overall, it's a pretty good update. It brings some much needed improvements to things. Now, if only they would just burn the new user interface because it's terrible. But yeah, I do wish that IoT optimize option would create a separate IoT network because, we already have the one-click option to basically make a guest network through the apply guest policies button, and that does all the firewall rules and all that stuff. I wish there was an option to do that for the IoT network. Maybe in a future update now that they have this in place, but hey, you never know. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and drop a like. I will have links to the documentation of the new controller update and a link to where you can download it if you want to run it for yourself down in the description below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this new controller update, whether you're kind of on board with the whole optimize my current network for IoT stuff versus creating a new network altogether. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and get subscribed. That way you can see more of me in your subscription feed if that's something that you want to do. But anyway, guys, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.